Hello. A huge big welcome to you all. So great to be here with you. And I am really excited and passionate about sharing today's uh, training and masterclass on getting back to thriving, being able to overcome burnout and reclaim your energy and your health, because this is really the most critical thing that we can do for ourselves as women to be able to be the role models, to be able to show up in life, because burnout affects every single area of our life, from how we feel about ourselves to our relationships to our children and how we interact, or our patience or our tolerance, our sensitivity, all of those things, not to mention finances, running a business perhaps, or even your career. All of these aspects are massively impacted by our health. And if we haven't got our health, then it's pretty hard to show up as the fullest version out of ourselves in our life on so many levels. So it's great to be here with you. And I first and foremost just really want to thank you all really for showing up and being here today, because this is something that is near and dear to my heart. And I know as women, the impact, that roll-on effect that we can have in our children's lives and the future generations of humanity by literally starting to transform and let go of some of these older paradigms, the people pleaser, needing to be there for everyone all of the time, feeling overly responsible for everyone, all of these things that contribute and escalate and perpetuate burnout. Being able to heal these things mean that we don't actually pass these things on to our children, because remembering our kids actually will do what we do, not what we say. So even if we're saying, don't be hard on yourself, don't be critical on yourself, take time to rest, all of those things, we're literally teaching our children how they need to be as a parent in their life. So the more that we can be the circuit breakers in our own families, then this is truly what helps to set generations free. And it's certainly something that's massive on my own heart. I went through massive burnout back in 2020. I've been through burnout two other times, but by far the last time that I went through burnout was by far the absolute worst and the most debilitating. And at my worst stages, I literally couldn't function for more than 2 hours a day, meaning I was only had capacity to work for about 2 hours a day. I'm self-employed. I was a single mum at the time when my kids were financially dependent on me. They're now completely financially independent. They've flown the nest, all of those things. And but at the time, it was absolutely terrifying going through that particular experience. So I just want to say thank you, because the more we get the word out about this, the more people understand, and in particular women understand, then we can also support other women that may not be aware that perhaps they are starting to go through burnout, because there's a lot of misdiagnosis that happens as well. And that's what I want to really speak into in my own personal journey, and what actually happened, and how you can really take your own power back to reclaim your own health, your energy, vitality, and you don't have to just be given a diagnosis or be told something that may or may not be correct for you. So really excited to obviously speak more about that today. I truly feel that it is absolutely my soul mission to really help women to really understand and know more about their body physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, to have that ability to be able to show up and be that fullest version of themselves. So thank you for being here today. I also believe that we have amazing and incredible gifts as women. Being women is our superpower, and we have amazing gifts to share with the world. But if we are feeling burnt out, if we're feeling exhausted, if we don't know how to do that in a sustainable way, then chances are you will either not be sharing those gifts, or you'll be minimizing yourself simply because you're exhausted, you're drained, and you're trying to find a way to reclaim your energy. So the more that we can really support each other, and to really understand the effects of perimenopause, menopause, all of those things, and not being told to, just pull yourself together, or you just got to get on with it, or just deal with it, like all of those things, whilst they can come from our loved ones, it's not actually very supportive of what we actually need when we're actually going through burnout. Because if you've ever been through burnout, chances are, if you're on here, you are going through burnout, or you are not feeling great within your energy. hearing those words is the last thing that we actually need, because it creates even more shame in our body. And it's actually very difficult to actually just be able to get on with things. And in fact, pushing through is the worst thing that you can actually do for yourself if you are currently burnt out. So let's jump in. Are you a busy and dedicated woman that wears her heart on her sleeve, meaning you're sensitive, you're empathic, you care deeply about others, and you love taking care of others normally, but now you're finding that you're starting to experience perhaps a little bit of resentment, or even anger, or feeling so exhausted and just really wanting to retract? Do you care deeply about being the best version of yourself? I know for me, that's one of the main things. And who's resonating with that? Like, uh, I have so many A-type achiever women or high achieving women that I work with that are so hard on themselves because they also want to be that best version of themselves as well. And you know deep down, obviously, that if you're fatigued, you're stressed, you're exhausted, that impacts every single area of your life, as we spoke about right at the start. And perhaps you have a huge desire to be a great mum. I know I certainly did, but who resonates with that as well? You want to be a great role model for your kids. You want to share your gifts with the world, or you care deeply for others. You want to make a difference as well. And so many women that I come across that are exhausted, tired, definitely are very empathetic or empathic. They're very intuitive generally, and very sensitive to other people's energy. So who's with me there? Who feels, you're really sensitive to picking up on other people's energy, emotions, all of those things, because even that can feel very challenging at times to know what to do. So some of the symptoms of burnout, of course, waking up with brain fog, feeling exhausted and dreading the day, losing confidence within ourselves and our decisions, thinking perhaps that, you just need to be more organized, more motivated, just push through, get together, why can't I get it together? Why can't I focus? All of those things are absolute symptoms of burnout as well. Are you living in overwhelm? I know this was a massive thing for me where, feeling that there's not enough time, but actually waking up and really, really dreading the day because I felt so overwhelmed and so anxious with everything that I felt that I needed to get done, yet didn't have the physical energy for. So really important to recognize that and be aware of that. And another huge symptom of burnout is, socially withdrawing. Are you socially withdrawing and finding yourself yelling more at your kids, or losing that patience, losing that tolerance that you once had, or feeling more reactive with loved ones? And often, our intimate partners can end up copying the brunt of that, or our children, which is really, really difficult. And then we end up beating up on ourselves, feeling really bad about who we are or how we've been, which really honestly perpetuates this cycle of burnout and exhaustion and not feeling enough. So, are you procrastinating, getting lost in the Facebook scroll hole, the stuck on the phone, and you're frustrated because like you're falling into the Facebook scroll hole, but yet you know that you've got like 10 other things that you need to be doing, but you feel like you just literally don't have enough energy? Have you lost your libido and spark? Are you having restless and interrupted sleep patterns, and feeling tired but wired? This is one of the biggest things around burnout, is definitely that restless, interrupted sleep, waking at between 1 and 3 a.m. generally, or taking ages to fall asleep because you cannot shut down our overactive mind, or overthinking, overanalyzing, where you're just ruminating or thinking about all the things that either you haven't done, you didn't get through the day, or things that you're worried about and stressing about, where you logically to let go of that, but it feels really tricky to actually do that at the time. Are you finding yourself reaching for high sugar, high carb, or high fat foods, especially at night? Often the body, sometimes it can be emotional eating, but I also find that the body will crave very quick, fast, high energy foods if we are exhausted, because the body's trying to get more energy in. So the more tired we become at the nighttime, the more we crave those things, and then generally go back in, beat ourselves up, feel bad, feel wrong for doing all of that. It is such a perpetuating cycle sometimes. And are you experiencing digestive issues such as IBS type symptoms, perhaps diarrhea, constipation, or an alternating between the two, bloating, indigestion, and reflux? And because like all of that means that we are living in a state of survival. It means that our body is constantly in sympathetic. The nervous system is in fight flight, which is got to go, can't stop, can't rest, can't digest, can't do any of those things. And so our digestive system ends up becoming inhibited as a result. And lastly, are you so tired? This is like a deep ache from within, a deep sadness from within, that we're feeling disconnected from ourselves, perhaps not as happy as what we used to be, or perhaps not really able to experience the levels of joy or spark or energy that you once had. And I know so many women are feeling that way. Certainly over the last couple of years, I feel burnout has absolutely escalated with all that's going on in the world. But it is really, really difficult, obviously, when we're feeling that depth of soul tiredness as well. So there's 3 stages in burnout. The first stage is hypervigilance, and you may know that you oscillate between some of these, but once we get to that last stage, it is a real feeling of absolute dread, a real feeling of powerlessness, of not being able to really function. And that was certainly where I got to the last time that I experienced burnout. And that was when I got really passionate about really understanding these key pieces that really support us and set us free, because I'm like, I am never doing that again, like never going down that pathway again. So number 1 is hypervigilance, and this is when our nervous system is extremely wired. Generally, there's ongoing stress and unhealed trauma at the core of this. This feels like I can't stop. I have to keep going. It feels like we're blindly running from something, but we may not actually be able to identify what that thing is. You may feel that you're super busy, you've got so much on your plate, but the nervous system feels full of anxiety and fear. And this is when, somebody might just say your name and you might jump, like be very jumpy in your nervous system. Generally, it can be a little bit addictive, this state, because it's high adrenaline in this state. So this is kind of like that first fight, flight. Generally, it's ongoing chronic stress. May not be super high level, but it's the got to go, can't stop, got to get things done, all of those things. And generally, I think in society, most of us are actually living from this particular place day to day, day in, day out. And by the time women start to get to their late 30s, early 40s, then they're finding this is no longer sustainable. So it's kind of like when we're young, we can kind of get away with some of this, but we're not actually getting away with it because it is actually massively impacting all of our hormones, everything else later on in life. Second stage is obviously fatigue, increasing and ongoing fatigue. So it means doesn't matter how much sleep you get, you're still waking fatigued. You're like, God, I'm just so tired. Like, oh, I slept really well, I'm doing the right things, I'm taking care of my body, but you're feeling this ongoing fatigue. Or perhaps this is the stage where you find you are starting to reach for those high sugar, high carb foods in order to try it, push through it as well. We generally start to feel very numb, feel like we're just moving through the motions and feeling like robotic. That's probably the best way that I would describe it. And it's generally at the stage where it's like most women are just like, I just have to push through. I don't know what's wrong with me. It'll be fine. I'll deal with it. I'll get over it. But we keep still putting everybody else's needs first. We don't change anything generally at this stage, unless we're really starting to get our back up against the wall, meaning it's just like, oh my God, something's not right here. And some women, just depending on their coping mechanisms, denial, disassociation, are 2 ways that we actually minimize or we downplay how we're actually really feeling. So it's like, oh, it's right. And we just put that brave, happy face on and get through the day. Whereas stage 3, like there is no denying that there is something majorly, majorly wrong at this point. It is so difficult to just get the most basic of tasks done. Cooking tea or cooking a meal will feel extremely overwhelming. Really feeling or finding everyday simple tasks that you used to breeze through or used to do, 10 of those things, even doing 1 or 2 of those things will feel very, very difficult. And many people, I feel like, really identify this as a mental breakdown, but it's like literally they just cannot get out of bed or cannot function properly. And generally there are a lot of feelings of depression, apathy, anxiety, but more the depression and the apathy that what's the point? I can't, why even try? Why even bother? Because we are so burnt out by this point. So I wanted to share a little bit about my story because I was like literally at, I could still get out of bed, but I was struggling to really get out of bed. And often I spent the majority of my day laying on the lounge, and beating myself up at times, thinking, what the hell's wrong with me? I just need to pull myself together. I just need to, get these things done. I was running my own business. I've been self-employed for the last 12 years. So I was running my own business and I was just like, I cannot stop. Like, I can't do this. And so I was fighting myself the whole time. The anxiety, the fear was absolutely through the roof. But thankfully, due to my kinesiology training, I was very, very acutely aware of what was actually going on. Now, just prior to me going through burnout, so when I explain burnout to a lot of women, I often say there's a chronic low level stress, meaning there's an element of stress in our lives, and then generally it takes 1, 2, or 3 major events to kind of tip us over the edge when we're going through burnout. And for me, I literally had 3 grief events in the 1 week. I had a very good friend pass away from cancer. I had my intimate relationship broke down, and my youngest daughter also moved out of home as well. And so all of those 3 events compounded together with what I'd been doing. And I share this with you because I had literally done a 2 weeks prior to hitting massive, massive burnout. I'd literally done a 42K walk, a marathon walk. Always wanted to do a marathon, but I ripped the cartilage off the back of my knee, so I wasn't able to run it. But I was very, very determined to do this walking marathon, and I did it literally within 6 hours, which for most people would be like, oh my gosh, walking a marathon. It was a pretty cracking pace the whole 6 hours. However, 2 weeks after this photo was taken and I'd done that particular marathon, I barely could walk 10 minutes. Like, literally would go for a walk. It was something that always made me feel really good at the start of the day. And I would be so fatigued and so exhausted by after 5 minutes, I would literally have to turn around and walk back home, and then lay down on the couch again for a while because I was so, so, so exhausted at this point. I had a lot going on in my life. I was self-employed. I'd been working out at the gym a lot. I had several compounding factors that were adding a lot more stress to my life, and really, really stretching me. And then it was those 3 events in that 1 week, which really toppled me and took me into full-blown burnout in a way that I had never experienced before. And it was a very, very scary time in my life as well. So as I mentioned, obviously there's those 3 stages, and please make note, like, if you're listening to this and you're resonating, perhaps you've had a similar experience, or perhaps you're going through some major life events at the moment. Like, life is always going to happen, but when they're compounded together and alongside of that perfectionistic A-type achiever personality of I can't stop, I've got to keep going, feeling overly responsible for everyone, often those things can massively, massively compound to really lead to massive exhaustion as well. So I went to the doctors. I knew I was not okay. She ran standard blood tests, as most medical doctors will do. And again, I'm not dissing Western medicine or anything. If I cut my leg open, I would go get stitches. Absolutely today. Like, if that happened, I wouldn't be hesitating around that. But everything has a place. And I truly feel that most Western medical doctors do not understand actually a whole lot around what's actually going on at the deeper level, in terms of both mental health and also with our hormones. And so they will just run a standard set of bloods that really are just scanning for a few different things, which is not actually picking up on any of the deeper things that are actually going on with burnout. And thankfully, due to my training, I knew exactly what I was going through, but my heart broke in that moment that the doctor said, no, your bloods are totally fine. Everything's fine. You're totally physically fine. So it must be mental health. And in that moment, I just thought, oh my gosh, how many women end up getting put on antidepressants or end up going down that path? And again, I have no judgment around antidepressants. Sometimes they are a good bridge. They bridge the gap between where we are and where we want to be. But ultimately, they are a band-aid fix, and they will never heal the root cause of what's actually taken you into burnout and perhaps even perpetuated burnout, and can even mask then further symptoms that we may be experiencing. So we're actually not in touch with our emotional guidance system, which actually lets us know, hey, this is something that needs to shift and change in my life. Like, these things are vital tools for our intuition, all of those things. And antidepressants tend to numb or make us feel very fuzzy, or just not clear in ourselves. And I think it's so, so, so important. Now, I went and got some functional testing done, and this is what my levels came back at. And so, as you can see, like, I was almost in post-menopausal range, even though I still get a cycle very regularly. I was certainly not anywhere near post-menopausal, or even perimenopausal. You know, I'm still like 26, 28 days on the clock. And yet all of these amounts were showing very, very drastic levels that were way lower than where I actually should have been for a normal, healthy woman of my age. And this is what's so important to understand. And particularly, the metabolized cortisol, like at 1780, like, the thing that you need to understand is that with Western medicine, they have these limits that if you're not in that particular limit or range, then, one bar out of that means that you're not well. But if you're within range, it means that you're well. Now, there is a huge, huge scale from what is completely unwell and really, really not well to what feels absolutely amazing and full of vitality. And Western medicine doesn't take any of that into account. It's just saying, yes, you're in a disease state, or no, you're not in a disease state, simply because of this particular range. Now, as you can imagine, somebody that has, 2750 and metabolized cortisol, just the bar down the bottom, or the circle down the bottom, where it says 1781, somebody that's even at 2750 is not going to have as much energy, as much resilience, as feeling as good as what somebody that was around the 4,000, 5,000 stage. Like, it's a very, very different level of energy that we actually have by having that adrenaline, the cortisol available to us. And many people go, oh, cortisol is bad. No, we actually really need cortisol. But just we're actually very, very dependent on it when we're living in that stress state. We certainly don't want to be living from a place of having lots and lots of cortisol. Cortisol drives inflammation, and causes like a whole lot of issues, obviously, with the body. Weight gain around the stomach tends to really impact our clarity in our thinking, all of those things, because the cortisol is that stress hormone. But our body actually really needs it to survive, to be well, to feel good within ourselves as well, so that we actually have the ability to be able to respond to the stresses in our life and then come back to a calm and resilient place. As you can see, like, obviously with progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, all were under range here. And that means that, from a day-to-day basis, we actually really don't have a whole lot of energy when we're sitting at those particular levels, even though my blood test came back completely fine. So this is why I'm on such a powerful mission around this, because so many women don't understand what's going on at the deeper level and take at face value that the doctors just told them fine, and then end up going home feeling like something's really wrong, or, in terms of like mentally feeling really unwell, or, like ending up with all of these labels, which do not serve. And I think it's really key to understand that the more exhausted we are physically, the more mentally active our survival mind will become, because it becomes more vigilant in needing to protect you, because the mind's job is to protect the physical body. It wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you alive. So as our physical body drops in energy, as we become more compromised in our physical state, it's just like if a deer is out in the woods and it's injured and it's laying under a tree, is it going to be like there, just all chill, totally relaxed, everything's fine? Or is the deer going to be like, oh, what was that noise? What was that noise? Like, it's going to be hyper vigilant because it's in a compromised state. And our minds and our bodies are exactly the same. When our physical body is in a compromised state, our mind becomes even more active. And that's when our inner critic really plays like a huge role in that, and can really impact us and perpetuate burnout. This is why sometimes it's so difficult to actually heal burnout ourselves as well. And it's so important to really understand that from both the mental, the emotional, and the physical perspective, and even that spiritual perspective of feeling connected to who you are. So this was actually how I discovered the 5 shifts, simply because as I was going through burnout, I literally was experimenting with what worked best, because it had been a long time since I'd been through burnout. I was very passionate about really helping women with their health, with their well-being, mentally, emotionally, and I was having more and more people come to me over the years with adrenal fatigue issues. And when I was in the crux of it, or in the height of it, I thought, right, I'm going to be my own guinea pig. So here I was experiencing burnout, and there was a part of me that was also observing me in that burnout as well. And I'm going, okay, what if I tried this? What if I tried that? And that was literally how I discovered the 5 shifts. So very powerful. And today, my promise to you is to give you these key things that really supported me to restore my long-term health, passion, and energy, and getting back to a place where I really felt like I was thriving again. And that's been just such a joy to me, to be able to live that way and to reclaim myself and to wake up and go, oh my gosh, I'm excited about my day again. And again, life is always happening. There's always like a few ups and downs and everything. I'm certainly not saying, every day is all bright, sunshiny, roses, rainbows, lollipops, all those things. But overall, I feel so I'm light years away from where I was previously. And I have felt like I've really gotten back to my old self, got my confidence back, feeling great within myself, feeling energetic, can go and do and be the things that I'm wanting to each day, which is really, really powerful. So that's what I'll be sharing with you today. So obviously, we want to get back to feeling like a great mum and partner and having a successful career and financial success without the burnout, stress, and anxiety. Who would like that here, right? Like, it's like so powerful. Working less hours and getting more done. Like, how difficult is it when you're exhausted, when you can't focus? How long do you take on things that when you're well rested, like you can zip through in like 10, 20 minutes as opposed to like 2 hours? That was like a huge lesson for me. Leading and positively influencing those around you, especially your kids, being able to get back and bounce out of bed with a passion, a joy, and an excitement, enthusiasm for life again, increasing your confidence, your self-belief, feeling naturally inspired, instead of having to push yourself or motivate yourself to take action, and spending more time actually enjoying life with the people you love. Who would like that? So number 1 shift is listening to your body. It is so important to listen to your body. If we are not listening to our body, then we're missing so many signs and signals. And so it's so important to be able to tune in and listen, because often we're feeling overwhelmed, we're feeling fatigued, we're feeling burnt out because we've actually learnt to ignore how we're really feeling and what our body is actually trying to tell us. Our body is always sending us messages, letting us know, hey, this doesn't feel right for me. This doesn't feel okay for me. I'm feeling tired. I need to rest. Like, it is always sending us signals. But when we're not tuning in, then we're missing those signals. So your body is a messenger for your soul. It's constantly giving you feedback of what needs to shift or change emotionally, mentally, or physically within your life in order to be happy, abundant, and sustainable. That's a key word, right? Sustainability in the world. The messages from your body will just get louder and louder until you pay attention. It's like this beautiful messenger that has an important telegram at the door. Like, he's like knocking at the door and he's trying to like get your attention. If you're like just ignoring the doorbell, you're like, no, I'm too busy. Like, oh, I've got to take care of everyone else. I'm too busy with my work. I'm too busy doing all these things. Then we'll ignore that. And he's like, I've got this really, really important message. And so he's like, oh my gosh, what can I do? So eventually, he'll throw a brick in the back window to try and get in. And eventually, like, if he still can't get your attention, you're just like, oh, what was that? Oh, mustn't be anything important. And you diminish that, you dismiss that, you deny that, you disassociate from that. And now there is a raging fire going on in your house. And now you have to pay attention to what that message is. So important to keep listening, to tune in. You want to get the message at the telegram not the fire, right? So pretending you're okay is literally, again, this is the shiny happy face syndrome, but it is just like putting a smiley face on top of the empty fuel gauge in your car. Not helpful, right? Like, we want to be aware. Being a great role model means taking care of you first. Your children, loved ones are watching you every single day, remembering that they're witnessing who they need to be and how they need to be as an adult and as a parent when they have their own children. That helped me get over a whole lot of guilt around resting or taking time out for me, right? Like, oh my gosh, I so don't want this for my kids. You cannot sustainably give from an empty bucket, and your body is absolutely letting you know that. That is why anger often presents, because anger is letting you know what your boundaries are. You continue to violate your own boundaries, say yes when you actually mean no, then like the angrier you will end up feeling, and the more resentment you'll end up feeling, because you're continually violating your own boundaries. Things will continue to spiral with negativity, anger, and irritability. It's so much harder to focus and be productive when you're exhausted. This massively impacts our work quality and creates damaging situations in relationships, because often, again, we're coming from that reactive survival mind state, as opposed to our heart and feeling connected, feeling loved, feeling that we're enough. All of those things really impact all of that. So when this shift is made, you will notice your positive influence on those around you. You'll be clear-minded and know exactly what your true priorities are, getting more done in a day with seemingly less effort. Who would like that, right? You will glow with the true confidence and self-belief that comes from having vibrant health and loving who you are and how you're showing up. This was probably the most debilitating part of me, of my experience. Like, when I went through burnout, was actually losing that confidence and like losing that sense of self-love and self-respect. That was really, really difficult. And a lot of that was due to the inner critic and how loud it was. You'll be no longer living in fear of not being enough. This is a huge one. You'll reclaim your inner power and be a magnet for what it is that you want, rather than exhausting yourself trying to prove and strive and push every single day. And when we're coming from that base core story of feeling that we're not enough, the proving, the striving, the pushing, the can't stop, I've got to keep going, all of those mechanisms are literally driving us unconsciously. And overcoming that is the way to exit off the hamster wheel. Number 2 is letting go of over responsibility. In order to overcome burnout, stress, and anxiety, we need to let go of feeling overly responsible for everyone in our world. This can be a really, really tough one. It's something I personally really struggled with for a long time. But I realized that the more that I was taking over responsibility for everyone else, I was actually taking under responsibility for my own life. And that was a huge, huge learning for me, where it was like, oh my gosh, for things to change, I have to stop blaming the world and stop blaming everybody else needing me and all of these things, and take that radical self-responsibility for what it is that I needed to be able to fill my bucket and be able to give from the overflow, not the emptiness. And taking responsibility for our own life, financially, emotionally, spiritually, for our happiness, our health, our well-being, all of those things, and our current levels of energy is so critically important to healing this. And there's 3 reasons why. This is also why I found it so difficult to let go of over responsibility for others. Majority of women never want to be seen as selfish. Like, who's with me here, right? Like, we never want to be seen as selfish, and therefore we always put our own needs last and take care of everyone else first. Your needs, and this is so important, your needs are just as important as everyone else's. So critically important to remember that. Secondly, being overly responsible gives the illusion of maintaining control. Who's a control freak here? Who likes control? I know it was a huge one for me as well. This is because a woman's highest need is to feel safe and secure and certain in our life. And one of the ways that we attempt to meet this is through this need for control and security and safety, is by taking responsibility for everyone. But it is an illusion, right? Like, how many people do you know that they're still going to do what they do? They're still going to, just like, we're not in control, obviously. And we know that logically, but it doesn't stop us from, trying to do that emotionally or unconsciously, because it's the emotional state that's driving us oh gosh, I just need to control this. If I know that they're safe, then I can feel okay. And that really comes a little bit from codependency as well, of needing somebody else to be okay so you can feel okay. That was a huge lesson for me as well. And thirdly, it can be a way of maintaining a sense of power or value, because if we make ourselves indispensable, it's a way that unconsciously we may be attempting to feel valued, needed, and wanted. And underneath this is an unconscious self-worth and self-value issue. And this was another big thing of mine as well, where I felt that I just wasn't enough. And so by overgiving was a way of compensating for being liked and being loved and never being rejected. If I became everything that I thought that they needed me to be, then I wouldn't be rejected, I wouldn't be abandoned, all of those things, where it was really coming from that deeper fear that I'm not enough. So it's really, some of these things can be really, really big drivers. By letting go of being overly responsible for others and taking radical self-responsibility, it does not mean that you don't care or don't love others. In fact, it is the most loving thing that you can do. As you role model self-love and self-care and self-responsibility, you're actually empowering others to also do that for themselves. And my belief is that anything that we do, if that produces anger in our system from feeling, oh, I obligated or I have to or I should, and we're saying yes when we actually mean no, that is far from loving. So we get to maintain our sense of self-love by actually self-care, and can be one of the most loving things that we do. And not to mention, letting go of that over responsibility will give you so much energy back, right? It's so much energy drain on our system trying to maintain this illusion of control in all of our loved ones' lives, or trying to make sure everyone's okay. That is such a huge energy leak. So to be able to reclaim that energy gives you your joy, your excitement, and feeling in control of your life again, so that you'll feel boundless energy return to your system as you refill your bucket. And your relationship dynamics will shift to being truly healthy and supportive, which is a huge thing. Your world will begin to reflect more and more of your self-value and self-love towards yourself, no longer feeling like you constantly have to be the giver in order to get the love, because you're taking care of your love, your self-love and self-responsibility. The world will reflect that back to you. You'll no longer be looking for validation or approval from others, because you'll know how to give it to yourself, and you'll be designing and creating a life that truly fulfills and lights your heart up. How amazing, right? And you'll be aligned with your soul, living your truth and your purpose. So our third shift, who's excited about the secret power? I believe us as women, that is our secret power, our feminine energy, our feminine essence. And this expands this a little bit further. So the manifesting matrix is the most powerful way to align yourself with the law of attraction, regain your health and energy and passion for life, and to align with all of your greatest dreams, including having that incredible intimate relationship that is working with great communication. And it does all of these things while giving you back your time. Who wants that? Let's put it in a bottle, right? So the manifesting matrix, number one, is really about being in a powerful and confident physical, emotional, and mental state. This is the key to unlimited potential and accessing all of your creative energy, which is your life force energy, to be able to share your gifts with the world, to have amazing health and well-being for life, and aligning with flow to be inspired and receive all of your greatest dreams and goals, and take that inspired action as well, as opposed to having to push, having to motivate, having to strive, all of those things that take us back into that burnout path. So number one key in creating the manifesting matrix is restoring your physical health. And we do that through very specific functional testing to repair your body and restore your nervous system, creating biochemical balance. This is so critical. We don't want to just be ad hoc, I'll try this supplement, let's see how you go. Like, none of that. We want to be very, very clear from a very scientific perspective of knowing exactly what it is that your body needs. And this is very, very different to any of the standard blood tests that you'll get from your GP or anything else. And it is truly what makes such a difference to our physical well-being. I had a high what was I going to say? I was going to say high-end elite athlete, but an elite athlete come through my program, and she was off the charts with her magnesium. All of her trainers, her coaches, all saying to her, you just need to take more magnesium. And it was throwing everything out. All of her ratios were out, because it's not just your vitamins and minerals and how much of each of those things that you've got in your body. It's actually the ratios of particular vitamins and minerals as well that make a significant difference to how you're actually feeling each day. So we want to be 100% clear on that you've got exactly what it is that your body needs in order to heal yourself. Mastering your emotions. This is so powerful. Who feels like their emotions just happen and they're not in control? Like, I know for me, that was a huge one. How would it feel to be the master of your emotions? Like, who wants that, right? Like, this was so powerful for me. Creating any desired emotion, regardless of circumstances, to lead yourself and your loved ones and team. If you have a team, perhaps at work, or you're self-employed, or you've got employees in your business, to be able to really lead them in a powerful, positive, and confident way. And along with that, we want to bust any limiting beliefs. The limiting beliefs are not enough. I should be doing more. I should have got more done. Have to be there for everyone. I can't be happy till everyone else is happy. Like, all of these ones really affect our emotional state, because our thoughts drive our feelings and our feelings drive our thoughts. So it's a perpetuating cycle, particularly if we're in a negative state, but it's also true in a positive state as well. If we're having positive thoughts and feeling great within ourselves, not falsely, not manufactured, but in a genuine, authentic way where you're really feeling empowered, you're really feeling confident within yourself, then you will really start to create a magnetic and unstoppable identity that attracts all of your goals and gets you into a state of flow where it's like, you get the green lights, the parks that are available, things just start to line up. Who's ever found that? Like, you wake up, you kick your toe, you spill your coffee, you run late, the kids are, forgotten something. Like, there's all these things that start to stack when we're in that downward spiral. But when we're in that upward spiral where it's like, oh my gosh, it's a beautiful day. Oh, wow, life is so great. And things really start to happen in very synchronistic ways. This is the power of really accessing the manifesting matrix. And I literally find it's the most powerful way to really shift and change, certainly my life, but thousands of women that I've also worked with as well. So is this making sense? Like, quantum physics has proven again and again that we literally create the results in our life based on how we feel emotionally and what we believe to be true. Our beliefs create our identity, and our beliefs also drive our feeling state. And that is where we're literally working with the law of attraction, right? When we're experiencing fear, stress, and anxiety, we will continue to attract more and more fear, lack, and scarcity in our business, in our lives, in our relationship, and most certainly in our physical body. And your body aching, your body feeling fatigued means that you are in contraction, you are in a state of lack of well-being, of energy, all of those things. So it's reflecting back to us what our thoughts and feelings have been, either about ourselves or about particular things going on in our life. Where there is disharmony emotionally, it cannot help but reflect out externally. So we have to take care of our core. We have to take care of our emotions and also our mental state, our thoughts, our beliefs that are literally creating our life. So our fourth one is living your truth. And authenticity can be an overused word in today's world. However, it is one that is so important to understand when it comes to burnout, because obviously through being socialized as children, we're often taught to ignore or dismiss how we really feel or what we really want. And we learn to please others. We learn to be the good girl. We learn to fit in, belong, be accepted, because all of those things we need as our base level survival as young children, to fit in, belong, and be accepted in our birth family. And so we genuinely need and desire these things as a young child for our safety and survival. And so we're neurologically hardwired to fit in, belong, and be accepted because our base level survival depends on it. So this is where our mind sometimes kicks in with these really, really big fears oh my gosh, you can't do that. Oh my gosh, what are other people going to think? Because we're hardwired literally to fit in, belong, and be accepted. But this is the challenge of being human, right? Because our hearts, we all have an authentic essence that we're here to express very authentically. And so the challenge is, am I listening to my ego survival mind that's freaking out, and because he's trying to keep the body safe, so it's base level survival, and our heart's desires, which is, oh my gosh, let me express myself, let me be who I am in the world. And we all have this kind of conflict that goes on in our lives. But what really sets us free is that authenticity. And so repressing and suppressing our true feelings, our true needs, wants, and desires takes tremendous energy to do so. It's exhausting, and it creates a huge amount of internal pressure from everything feeling so bottled up. And this can end up as a big implosion or explosion. Who implodes? Who explodes? I would implode. But it was, I think, very, very clear to those around me that I was imploding internally, even if it wasn't verbalized, but my energy was so like fully out there. So that internalized anger can eventually turn cancerous in our body, because it is creating further and further issues with all of those stress hormones, all of those things that are actually going on in our body that really is creating this massive state of inflammation that is driving so many of our big diseases, such as diabetes, cancer, osteoporosis, rheumatoid arthritis. All of those things are driven through inflammation. Inflammation is caused in the body by eating a lot of gluten, dairy, high sugar or high processed foods, and stress. Stress is one of the biggest ways that we create inflammation in our body. So that's why it's so essential and so important to be aware of and to express how we're actually really feeling. So we're not pushing it all down and it all simmering away underneath. It's also a major cause of burnout, pretending and trying to be someone or something that we're essentially not. This is what is exhausting us and draining our body in so many ways. It's one of the most draining things that we can do to ourselves, simply because it takes so much energy to do it. Letting go of this, starting to live your truth, you'll feel an incredible deep peace and soul deep joy that perhaps you've never experienced before. This is when we get our soul vitality back, because we're in connection with ourselves again. Life will feel free and full of endless possibilities for you to embrace and open up to. Coping mechanisms will drop away as you embrace, accept, and fall in love with who you really are, your authentic self. And your relationships will be deep, meaningful, and authentic. How powerful, right? And you will unleash a true inner power and confidence, and the feeling of full alignment that life brings you when you own your inner truth. There is nothing more powerful than this. And I know for so long, like I minimized, I downplayed my sensitivity. I made it wrong. I did all of those things because it wasn't necessarily accepted as a huge part within within my birth family. But a lot of people really were challenged by my sensitivity as well. Yeah, it is my biggest gift to give the world. I couldn't do the work that I do without that level of sensitivity. So by fully embracing that, no longer making that wrong, it really meant that I could align myself with the people that embrace that as a gift, and where it's really been able to serve the world and in a really beautiful way, where I've been able to help so many people as a result of that. So our fifth shift is invest in mentoring. And this one is so critically important, particularly when we're in burnout, because one of the biggest challenges that perpetuate burnout is that we find it so hard to ask for help and receive help. And receiving help is critical in order to heal our burnout. But even more than this, we can have so many unconscious blind spots that we don't even realize what's happening, or that things can be difficult for us. Our belief is such a powerful challenge sometimes in our life, simply because we believe it to be true. And when we believe it to be true, it's become our reality. Therefore, we are living that belief every single day. And so you will feel it's an absolute truth rather than a belief that has actually just created your reality. And this is where we can end up limiting ourselves, because it's like, no, this is just who I am. This is just how life is. This is just how it's going to be. It can't be any different for me. And it continues to perpetuate this painful cycle sometimes, if particularly if the belief's disempowering And we are not even aware that it is just a belief that gets to shift and change. And when it shifts and it changes, our whole life can shift and change. And certainly this was what happened to me many, many years ago, when I really started on my self-development journey and started to become really aware of all the beliefs, the stories that I had stacked up and I had told myself for years and years and years that were disempowering me, that were hurting me, that were stripping me of my power and my energy, that made me feel like rubbish every day when I looked in the mirror, that really affected and impacted my relationships and my ability to be able to have a satisfying and wonderful, mutually beneficial, intimate relationship. Thank goodness I finally got all that sorted. Like all of these things can really impact us without us actually even being aware that it can be different. Your beliefs, thoughts, and feelings create your world, and whatever you believe to be true will be true for you in every aspect of life. And this is the most challenging part because it affects everything and it permeates through everything. So, therefore, would you really leave your house to chance, hoping and wishing it would change, given that you're already burnt out and exhausted from your internalized beliefs? And a lot of these beliefs have come from past, perhaps unhealed trauma as a child, or even I know for me, I had a very loving and very blessed childhood, and I still took on a lot of limiting beliefs and fears about who I was and how I wasn't okay and how things were always my fault. And like all of these different beliefs really can impact us massively and impact our self esteem and how we feel about ourselves. So, obviously, we can all have good intentions and have an idea that we'd like to change something, but the truth is that life happens and things get in the way, especially even more so when you're burnt out and exhausted. And I see this happen all the time. When we initially try to start, putting in healthy boundaries or taking more space and time for ourselves, if we've still got those other beliefs going on in the background, meaning I still have to take care of everyone else, I have to put everybody else's needs ahead of mine, then you will literally self sabotage this, or you'll create situations and circumstances and you'll be like, no, I didn't create it, that's how life was. But where other things get in the way, every time you go to make the medical appointment or an appointment to take care of you, somebody else will have a crisis or something else will get in the way. And this honestly can be such a difficult thing because it feels really true, and you're like, well, I don't know why this is happening. Like every time I try to heal myself or I try to work on myself, just things get in the way. And this is because of the unconscious blind spots that are actually playing out for you. And this is why it's so important to invest in mentoring, simply because we get in our own way and we're not aware of these blind spots. And often we are so exhausted that we haven't got the energy to actually implement and create change in our life by ourselves as well. Your health and life is the way that it is right now because of the beliefs you've had and the choices that you've made based on those unconscious beliefs. Insanity is literally trying to do the same thing over and over again, but expecting things to be different. We cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them. Without your health, it is literally impossible to do anything, particularly if you're at that third stage. But often people that are at that second stage will continue trying to push, trying to manage, because they're like, no, it'll be right. I'll be fine. I'll get through it. It's just this phase of my life, like all of these different things, and end up in stage 3 where it's like, oh my God, I'm in dire, I'm in dire need now. I really can't do anything. And so often, like, women get to that point, but it takes so much longer to heal when we've gotten to that stage 3. Accountability alone increases your chances of succeeding. This is true, like in all fields, right? If you've set a goal, having an accountability buddy or having somebody to be accountable to actually increases your chances of succeeding in that by up to 95%. That is worth doing, right? Like accountability is everything. And it's why I've also invested over 270,000 personally in my own mentoring courses and education, simply because I knew I had a few things I needed to work on. There's a lot of negative thoughts. There was a lot of things that I wasn't actually even aware of in myself that I needed some support around. I needed to really understand what was actually going on at the deeper level. And I've done so many different trainings over the years in really understanding that mind and the body and the soul connection and how it all interlinks and creates well-being, both from, a spiritual perspective or energetic perspective, which really, is just the next level of science coming through, but also from that scientific perspective as well of real world results, and what actually really works and makes a difference. So working with a team that takes you by the hand and supports you every step of the way through the overwhelm and guides you to clarity is imperative for transformation to occur. And of course, we want to be absolutely certain that you're working with a team of professionals that know exactly what you're experiencing. There's nothing worse than, going to a doctor's or going somewhere and they're like, oh, no, I don't really know what you're meaning. Like, you absolutely want to feel understood, and you absolutely want to know that that person knows exactly what it is that you're going through, what you're experiencing, and more importantly, what the real root cause of it is, and is able to skillfully guide you back to full health with the exact knowledge and the support you need. So critically important. And a huge reason why many women burn out is that they're so used to being the caregiver. And it's often not until they're completely depleted to that point of very serious ill health that they realize something has to change. Please, as I mentioned before, do not let yourself get to that point. Love yourself enough. Be the role model for your children to not let yourself get to that point, to really allow yourself to start to receive, and to no longer feel that you have to constantly be the caregiver, the caretaker, the one that's always giving. I often take people through in my workshops and exercise, and maybe we just do it now, where I get you to breathe out. Just keep breathing out, 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 right? You're going to get to a point, right? You have to breathe in. This is exactly the energy of feminine energy, is the receiving energy. We must learn how to receive. It is one of the major pieces as to why women end up in so much burnout and exhaustion, because we're either feeling that we're not enough, or we're not deserving, or we're not worthy of it. And this is where the buck has to stop with us, and we have to take full responsibility if we're not wanting to pass all of those things on to our children, because by healing that within ourselves, and by knowing that we are inherently worthy, that there's nothing that we have to be, do, or create, or any of those things in life, that we are inherently worthy and deserving of receiving, because we are, full stop. And so this is the point where we can really start to set ourselves free. Valuing yourself enough to receive help is essential to be able to restore optimal health, passion, and energy. And as I mentioned before, a lot of that over responsibility comes from that illusion of needing to control or needing to be so valued. When we value ourselves, we allow ourselves to receive. And that's a really critical piece. So what you need to do in order to heal from burnout and reclaim your health and energy. As I mentioned, the 5 steps, I'm sorry, the 5, not the 4, the 5 steps is: number 1, listen to your body. Really be aware of what messages is your body sending. Again, denial and disassociation can be 2 coping mechanisms that diminish our awareness around it, or we end up dismissing how we're actually really feeling. Make sure that you take time to tune into your body every single day. Number 2 is let go of over responsibility. This is a huge one, and it's something certainly I found I needed to absolutely be working with mentors on this, because setting boundaries, letting go of that fear of letting others down or disappointing others was such a huge one as well. But it is so freeing to really take full responsibility for our own life, and to support others, to empower others to be able to take radical self-responsibility for their life. So powerful. Number 3, use the manifesting matrix. And this is our superpower as women, is allowing ourselves to be in such an aligned state that life really does flow for us so much easier than ever before. Your results will go through the roof in any area of your life. You will feel more happiness, more joy, and it really supports the body to really heal itself in a very fast way. So obviously, the manifesting matrix was really healing the physical body, healing our emotions and mastering our emotions, and overcoming those limiting beliefs. Number 4 is living your truth, being authentically you. This is so critically important as well. And number 5 is invest in mentoring. Work with someone to really support you on your journey and to help you get super, super clear. What is the root cause? What is driving the burnout? And what are the mechanisms, the programming? And when I say programming, all those thoughts and beliefs, I have to be there for others. I can't stop. I've got to keep going. All of those beliefs that really get in the way of you actually being able to heal your body. It's so critically important to be able to get that support and work with somebody that absolutely knows what it is that they're doing in supporting you through this as well. So doing all of those things will get you back to feeling like a great mum and partner again, having that beautiful, successful career or financial success without the burnout, stress, and anxiety. Working less hours, getting more done, leading and positively influencing those around you, especially your kids, bouncing out of bed again with passion, joy, feeling like you've got your old self back, but in a more wiser version, if that makes sense, and increasing your confidence and self-belief and naturally feeling inspired instead of having to motivate yourself to take action. That is a key one. And spending more time actually enjoying life, doing the things that bring you joy, doing the things that light your heart up, and obviously spending that quality time being fully present and available with the people that you love is one of the most important things in life, I feel. And because I truly believe that women are powerful influences in today's world, and our daughters, as I mentioned, will also one day become mums, it is more important than ever before to heal ourselves and to be that role model that we need to be for our daughters. I have two girls, they're 19 and 21, and I vowed and declared to be the circuit breaker for my family so that I'm no longer passing on generational trauma or all of these, needing to be perfect, needing to be the good girl or the pleaser, and really teaching my girls how to follow their heart, how to be their most authentic version of themselves. And I truly believe it is so critically important that each of us really take on that role and responsibility. And if you don't have children, obviously there's other people in our lives that we're all interrelating with, and we can really positively and powerfully impact others in our lives to really role model that next level. And if you're in a leadership position, it is so critically important to be able to obviously step into this space for yourself first and foremost, to really be that role model as well. I believe it is my soul's mission and purpose and passion to really help others, to give back to women and to help them know their true worth. That was one of my biggest challenges in life, was really knowing my own worth and my own value, and being able to then tap into our own gifts to share that in the world in the unique role that we are here to play individually as women in the world. And I truly believe that anybody with a big heart that cares deeply has a massive contribution to make in the world. That's not to put pressure on you. Just who you are being is what matters most in the world. And to be able to share your gifts in a way that lights your heart up, that brings you joy, and that is in such a sustainable way when you are not burning out is critically important. And because of all of those things, and as a thank you for showing up today, for committing to yourself, to commit to heal your body, I would also like to gift you. So this is where you get to receive, right? I would like to gift you a free 45-minute breakthrough burnout consult. This is where you truly get to receive and be able to really tap into what is that root cause of what's going on for you as well. And so if I've shared some things today where you're like, oh my gosh, yes, that's me, you really resonated, then I really encourage and invite you to reach out to me, because on the call, you will discover the root cause of your current fatigue. Yes, we are going to get to the root cause of what's actually causing all of the fatigue and what's currently stopping you from healing. And then together we can see if and how I may be able to help you move forward and get back to being the best version of yourself, inspire yourself, inspire others around you, and be that great role model and love life again, more importantly, and to really reclaim your health, your energy, your vitality, and get that joy and spark back in your life again. If you are 100% committed and ready to reclaim your health and energy, then please reach out, book your call with me today. Text me on 0428 316 546 to receive the booking link, and let's jump in, book that time, and really understand what's going on for you at that root cause level so that you can really truly get the support that you need and create that longer term plan on how to actually recover your health, your energy, and vitality. And make sure you take a screenshot of that if you need to, just so that you've got that number as well. Or if you're watching this in Facebook, please comment below and I can send you the booking link as well. So that is also another way that we can support you in that. So have an amazing rest of your day, and really looking forward to being on the call with you. And please allow yourself to receive this beautiful gift that will give you so much clarity as to what's actually going on, and perhaps even to feel really, really understood. So many women come to me and say, oh my gosh, nobody else gets this. Everybody's saying I should just pull myself together. I just got to get over it. And I really feel like I can't. So being able to really feel understood with what's going on, what you're experiencing, and more importantly, how to actually take yourself out of that is one of the most important keys. So, so much love to you all. Gratitude for you being here. Have an amazing rest of the day. And thank you so much. Bye for now.